Okay, good evening. We've got another 3 minutes to go, so I'm just going to get us ready and set up, if that's okay, and then I'll start off the session. Unfortunately, Juliet has had something come up personally, so won't be able to join the session with us this evening, but she has pre-recorded it for us, so that we do have her valuable insight and thought leadership and knowledge to pass on to you this evening. Unfortunately, she's had something personal come up at home that she's having to attend to. So we're going to show her presentation, and then we'll probably take a couple of quick questions at the end, and I'll share Juliet's contact details so that you can ask her directly on social media to share any of her thoughts, to expand on any of the thoughts and stuff that she's going to share. So we'll just get that's all ready now to go. We've got another couple of minutes, so just bear with us. Okay, thank you as well to everybody that's joined this session and has been with us for the past 2 days. Thank you so much. This is our last session of the 2 days. We're going to be finishing with Juliet's wonderful presentation. Yes, we're going to be finishing with Juliet's wonderful presentation. It has been an absolutely amazing and awesome 2 days. We hope that those of you that have been, and I can see, I've seen some recognisable kind of faces on the table there that have been with us for the 2 days. We really do hope that you've taken away some really valuable knowledge and insight and takeaways that you can start to weave into your lives in terms of looking after your self-care and building your resilience. It's incredibly challenging times for us as an industry and as event professionals. I don't think we've ever faced anything like what we're facing at the moment in terms of the way that it's completely changed the way that we're having to do things at the moment. So the big message in terms of that is, know that you're not alone. Know that the event industry is there for support. We're here for support as well, so if anything you ever need from EventWell, then please do get in touch. It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not ask for help if you're struggling or in need of support. But here we are at 6 o'clock, so I'm going to introduce Juliet's session now. So basically, for this session, Juliet is going to lean in with her experiences as both an international and virtual event manager. She's going to be sharing her top tips for how you can weave wellness into your event strategies. So we've spent 2 days of talking about wellness, how you can weave it into culture, how you can weave it into business management. We've had yoga sessions, breathing sessions, how to eat well, how to sleep well, 3 pillars of health, stress management. We've had all of that. But what we wanted to do was finish with Juliet with her top tips on how you can actually take some of those wellness practices and weave it into your event strategies. And that's from a view of keeping your attendees engaged, positive, productive throughout the event journey. Because remembering, of course, that we all have mental health and well-being, and that includes our end clients, which is our delegates, our attendees, our audiences as well. So without further ado, please enjoy this session with Juliet. I'll pass it on now. Okay.
Hello and welcome to my session at the EventWell Digital Summit. I am so happy to be here. My name is Juliet Tripp, and today I'm going to be talking to you about weaving wellness into your virtual and hybrid event strategies. So who am I? If we haven't met before, it's a pleasure to meet you virtually today. My name is Juliet Tripp, and I am a senior events manager at a company called Chemical Watch. I organise international conferences, now virtual conferences, and I've been in the industry for 10 years now. I absolutely love it. I throw my heart and soul into events because it truly is the best career in the world, I believe. I'm also an event industry speaker and a blogger, and I write about all different sides of the industry over on my blog, my website, and on Instagram. I'm often sharing my thoughts and stories there too. So it's really, really great to be here. It's such an important time for us to talk about well-being, both as event professionals and when we're organising our events virtually and looking to the future in real life for our delegates. So I'm really, really pleased to be here, and a huge well done to all the EventWell team, especially Helen, who is an absolutely incredible woman. I'm just always in awe of everything that you guys are achieving. So it's great to be here with you today. So my plan for today's session is in a couple of little chunks. We're going to keep it short, sweet, snappy, because I know there's been loads and loads of sessions so far. And also I know what attention spans are like in the virtual world. So why I won't stop talking about wellness at events, how to understand the needs of your attendees, and how to implement these needs into a strategy and a plan with my top tips and tricks for wellness in the virtual world. So let's get started and let's talk about wellness and events. Now, I think a few years ago, wellness was one of those event trends that you saw come out in January. And okay, it's one of the things to look at this year. And it's far more than that. And I think we all know that the days of wellness being just smoothie shots on the breakfast bar, or having a mix and match of different sessions is far beyond us, and it's not a trend anymore. It's something that's super, super important and should be a consideration for any events. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to throw on yoga classes or fitness classes or meditation breaks into every event you do. That wouldn't necessarily be suitable. I'm saying that you need to understand the well-being needs of your attendees, whether those are wedding guests or they're corporate conference attendees, they are party guests, whatever the event is that you're planning, wellness has its place. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. As an event professional, I have had to juggle my own wellness, my own well-being alongside the needs of my attendees too. And that's certainly been a challenge, especially working internationally, flying all around the world to do events, running on jet lag and caffeine. And I talk about this a lot. And if there's anything that I can help you with, always reach out to me, because I'm really, really passionate about it. I've had burnout before when producing events, so it's always top of my agenda. And that's why events like this one this week are so, so important. Now, the thing is, not everyone will take part or buy into yoga breaks and meditation. These might not just be the attendees, these might be some of your key stakeholders, your business owners and directors. And this is why you need to see wellness as more of a trend too, more than a trend too, because then you can get the buy-in from the people that matter and ultimately the people that are paying the bills. Because if you say, I'm going to make this conference really have lots of well-being initiatives within it, okay, that's great, but how do they translate? And this is why having a strategy is so important, because you're understanding the why, you're looking to the future, and you're always having your key goals and objectives at the heart of what you're doing, so that when you are planning, when you are running, and when you are looking back on your event, you've always got those goals in mind. So if your goals are to create an incredible learning experience and your conference is going to be quite educational and informative, that's great. And how can you use wellness to enhance those goals and get you there quicker? So making sure that you've got lots of brain food so that people are learning, making sure that the space around you is light and airy and breezy. We've kind of got a little bit used to that for our physical events, and now we need to look at transforming that into the virtual space that we're now all having to adapt to and learn to quite quickly. And I have included hybrid in this presentation as well, because we all know that soon, hopefully soon, please give us date and times, we will be moving into a hybrid model, which means that we'll be blending the best of in-person and virtual elements into our events. And wellness also shouldn't be forgotten. Once you master it in the virtual world, which can't always be easy to do, we've got to remember it as we move forward into hybrid too. So the importance of wellness in a virtual event world is so, so prominent for both the attendees and the event organisers. I'm not going to be talking about the event organisers side today because you have had plenty of other incredible conversations on that already with the other speakers. As I mentioned, if you've got any questions at any stage, feel free to reach out to me either after this session or after the event itself, and I will happily help you. But we are looking at how we can bring wellness initiatives into our virtual events to enhance the strategy and enhance the experience of our delegates. So we are facing a time of virtual fatigue right now. How many of you have signed up for all the webinars, all the online training, all the focus groups, and then suddenly seen your diary just absolutely fill up and not been able to attend any of them? It's like virtual burnout. Zoom fatigue is a thing. It's a term that people are actually Googling time on time again. You know, there was a time where we were doing family pub quizzes every Saturday night. Suddenly you felt like you couldn't face that anymore. And, you know, you experienced almost what you would experience in the normal world of not wanting to go to the pub anymore because it's just happening too much. So virtual events have a well-deserved and much needed place in our world, and still will when we begin to move into a hybrid approach. However, there are more virtual events and meetings than ever before, and we are suffering from virtual fatigue. We're finding them pretty draining, and I think all of us are probably in more Zoom calls than we care to count, more meetings that could have been emails than maybe before because it's that much easier to call everyone together. And there are a few reasons for this, and I'm just going to describe a couple of them. So without the in-person element, our need to focus is there a lot more than it is. Now, this isn't to say that we wouldn't focus being an in-person conference, but how many times have you felt yourself sort of zoning out when you're in a room full of people, maybe just responding to a message on your phone quickly? Now, what we can do in that scenario is we can turn to the person next to us and ask them what we missed. Or we could approach that speaker just off the cuff after they finish, after they step off stage, and say, do you know what, this part was really interesting. Could you tell me a little bit more? Where can I find out more about this? It's a lot harder to do that in a virtual setting. And yes, we do have networking opportunities, but it isn't always easy for us to reach out and to make the most of them when our speakers and those key stakeholders are so busy. So we've got to focus, right? We're looking at the camera, we're looking at the screen the whole time, and sometimes it's quite intense as well, because when you are in a big conference room, there's other things to look at. You know, you can share a glance with a colleague or another attendee. You could have a look at what's going on out of the window. When we're working from home and we're just constantly looking at the screen, you just see a big face presenting like you do with mine right now, right? Okay, you've got to look at them, you've got to be in it, otherwise you miss out, and you can't always rewind, you can't always go back to things. So we've really got to work out how we can capture the attention of our audience without giving them burnout, without giving them Zoom fatigue. So my first point is that the booking process should not be stressful. It should not be stressful, and there should not be hundreds of hoops to jump through. We've got to hold the hands of our delegates sometimes, and if making sure that booking your event virtually, or if it's a hybrid event too, you've got to make sure that that's easy for them to do and easy for them to understand. So this is part of well-being too, okay? Making people feel comfortable, making people feel like they're valued, they're welcome, and that it's not becoming stressful. So having tons and tons of forms to fill in, external things to download, maybe a number of different virtual conference platforms to jump around, maybe an app as well, maybe documents to download. I don't know. This is a lot going on. So the easier it is for your delegates to click through from an email, click through from your website, book their place and receive all the information they need, the better. Now, having a strategic understanding of your audience and their needs is important for any event. I would say right now, more so for virtual. So some of the questions that you should be asking to understand the needs of your attendees and how these can relate to their well-being during your virtual event could be, do they need additional support in getting used to your virtual event platform? I just mentioned virtual hand-holding. Okay, could you provide extra walkthrough videos to show them how to use it, extra checklists for what they might need on the day? Could you offer a customer service sort of support line for anyone that has issues or isn't sure? I ran a virtual event recently and a lady couldn't get on, and it was down to her browser and her internet browser. So I asked her, are you on Chrome or are you on Firefox? She said, well, how am I supposed to know? And she didn't know the internet browser that she was on because she just didn't understand. She's never needed to know the difference between Google Chrome and Safari before. So this is what I'm talking about. It's about breaking stuff down so it's so easy to understand and to get on board with. Understand how your delegates like to learn. How do they like to take in information, and how will that best serve their needs? Do they need plenty of breaks? We'll go on to breaks afterwards. How do they like to network? Do they even want to network, or is this going to be too overwhelming for them when they're trying to learn? They might not want to be getting salesy direct messages from people. They might not want to be launched into a networking room where suddenly their camera is on and they're with a crowd of people around a table they've never met before. You've got to take these needs into consideration. Is entertainment appropriate, and is it relevant to consider? You can still integrate well-being into your event without having yoga sessions, without having mindfulness or meditation. It's not all about this, it's the whole approach and the way that you look at it. So how do we find these things out as part of our event engagement strategy and virtual event wellness strategy? We ask our audience, okay? So do surveys, ask the questions, get in touch with some of your key event advocates from previous events, run a focus group, ask the question, because unless you ask them, you're going in blind. And yes, with the best will in the world, you could know the facts, you could know what you enjoy. But if you've got previous event attendees who have bought a ticket before and will hopefully buy a ticket again, you need to speak to them to understand what they need. So I'm going to run through my top tips for you today, which hopefully will be useful when we're looking at well-being. So timing is a crucial part of this as well. Now, making sure that your audience feels settled, they feel comfortable in understanding your presentations. Timing is key. So how long is your event? Okay, if it's super long, you've got tons and tons of content, can you split this up into days, into sessions, so it's easily digestible? How long are your presentations? Okay, attention spans are about 50% shorter. So that means that if your keynote is usually 1 hour long, you should be looking at 30 minutes. If your presentations are usually 30 minutes long, you should be looking at 15, so on and so forth. This goes back to how we have to focus so much more. So really look at the timing of your presentations. Are you appealing to different time zones? Are you making it easy for people to attend your event from all over the world if that is appropriate? If so, you don't necessarily want to be encouraging them to get up at 3 a.m. to have to tune in. Or, you know, if you've got an event that you're running from the UK and you've got an Asia-based audience, you don't want them to be watching at midnight, okay? You want to make it as easy as possible. Now, a way that you can do this is to make sure that your content is available on demand afterwards so that people can make it work for them and they can make it work for their schedules. Don't forget that so many people are still working from home. So many people are juggling family life, homeschooling, pets, other commitments, emails coming in. So the easier you can make the timings for them, the better. Okay, my next tip is to break it up. Break it up into chunks with your content, as we said, but also look at your conference breaks, okay? Just because your events are not in person, you still need break time. And your breaks may need to be even longer. You know, when we are at a conference or you're in a lovely hotel space, you step out into the foyer, there's suddenly coffee there for you and juice and pastries. You know, we don't always have that waiting for us on tap in our homes. I certainly don't. So making sure that you have time for your delegates to go, to relax, to make that coffee, to make that phone call, to make some lunch, sit down, catch up with the family, catch up with colleagues is important too. So do bear that in mind. You can also incorporate short breaks in between sessions. Just because you have a lot to fit in on your agenda doesn't mean your delegates don't have lots to do as well. So it's that whole comfort break thing. We don't want them to be missing that content that you're putting out there. So if you have just a couple of minutes transition changeover, you could be sort of playing some slides on the screen. So there's something there to engage those that are still sitting at their desks, but just have a think about how you can attend to their well-being needs. They do need to stand up, they do need to stretch, go for a walk. And I know that that's something that EventWell have really, really looked into with this event. So I'm sure that you can take some inspiration from that as well. Now let's get physical. Just like the song. Just like events moving online, fitness has too. And if you're not convinced that all of your attendees would love to jump around or take part in a yoga session, take part in a HIIT class as part of your event, why not provide options? And you don't need to provide these options. How about reaching out to an external provider? There are plenty of the well-known gyms who are running their own virtual Zoom classes at the moment. You could even get some vouchers for your attendees so they could choose a session, treat themselves to be able to do that before the event itself even starts or during a break. And then it's optional, okay? If you had a physical conference, not every single person would be taking part in that activity, I would imagine. I don't know for sure, but if you run, say, yoga sessions at your events or mindfulness breaks with meditation, chances are that these are optional. Don't forget that. It's very easy to put this into your agenda. People might get put off, they might not think it's for them. So do encourage them to move, but encourage them to move in a way that suits them. Even making sure there's adequate time for someone to go and walk their dogs in the lunch break for 30 minutes, or providing a list of different workouts that you recommend people do to get them moving. And think outside of the box. It doesn't always have to be yoga. I think yoga is the first thing we think of when we think of wellness initiatives. I love yoga. Yoga has its place, but think outside the box. Look at boxing sessions or dance or anything. There's so much out there. Okay, my next tip is to value the role of the moderator. So a friendly face and someone that can tie your event together throughout, both in person, at hybrid events, super important, and virtually too. They keep that continuity throughout, and it's actually very nice and reassuring to see a familiar face pop up on the screen when we are sitting at home, or when you're running a hybrid event and you've got some delegates attending from home. That moderator is the key link between the people that are in the room physically and the people who are in their own room virtually. So just think about who your moderator should be, who can set the tone and the mood and tie it all together. It takes skill to do this, so don't rush into it. Have a look for who might be best suited to moderate your event. My next tip is to make social sessions or some of your social sessions optional. So when you run a drinking, networking session following a conference, chances are that not every single attendee is going to attend. This might be because they have other commitments to go to, meetings set up, they need a break, or simply because it's just not their scene. And actually throwing people into a sort of social situation shouldn't be mandatory, because it can be difficult for some people to engage. They might not enjoy it and it might not make them feel comfortable. So by providing lots of different social opportunities, networking opportunities, you can make sure that you're hitting those wellness needs of your attendees, because their well-being should be so important to you that you're looking just as much as what they don't want to attend as what they do. And actually I spoke about some of the sort of sessions that are almost like a chat roulette approach, right? You get thrown into a room, suddenly your camera's on, you don't know the people. Now, some people relish that kind of opportunity and they think it's really exciting. Others don't. This sort of networking is not for everyone. So do bear that in mind. That's really important. It could be overwhelming. So get creative and have a look at the different options that you could look into. So, weaving wellness into your event strategy. Here are my 3 top takeaways for you when you're creating a strategy with wellness at the core. Look at your event goals. What do you want to achieve at the end of this event? Is it selling products? Is it informing your audience? Is it connecting people? Whatever those key event objectives are, you then need to tie them into your strategy and look at how wellness can impact them. Okay, the next tip is to know your audience, know them so well, ask them what they need, speak to them and understand their needs and their situation. You could even do a quick survey so that you know where your delegates are going to be tuning in from, whether they're back in the office, whether they're at home, so that you can really make sure that you understand their needs when you are putting your virtual or hybrid event together. So assess each part of your event, every single step of the way, to understand where wellness and well-being could be considered. So this is your booking process, this is your marketing, this is your event registration, this is your breaks, this is your opening session, your closing session, your lunch options. There's so much out there and you can really, really get creative. There are so many ideas, especially when catering and entertainment comes into play. By sending out sort of menus or healthy recipes maybe for your delegates, you can replicate what you would have done if you were on site and you had a huge, incredible menu to choose from with lots of options. So I hope those top tips have been helpful. Thank you so much for joining me today. And on behalf of everyone at EventWell speaking, it's been great to be here. And we're really glad that you joined us. So please do feel free to ask any questions that you might have, and I have left all my information here just in case you want to get in touch after the event. I would absolutely love to hear from you, and I would love to hear what you're doing to weave wellness into your virtual and hybrid event strategy.
Lovely. That was great. Juliet's amazing. That you know, she's so talented and so experienced in terms of event management, and everything that she's shared in that session today. It is really, really about absolutely 100% putting well-being at the heart of the events that you organise, whether that's a live event or whether it's a virtual event. It really is thinking about those different elements of events and kind of looking at any kind of anxieties or stress that might be caused for your attendees in terms of those different elements. So it's really the key to incorporating wellness into your event is really putting yourself in that delegate's shoes. And if it was you, how would you feel in that environment? And Juliet's hit the nail on the head there in so many different ways. You know, that from her talking about the networking elements, you know, that it's not everybody is an extrovert and comfortable with networking, and networking on digital platforms can be even more daunting for some people, because some people can find it quite difficult. Session timings as well, what she said about session timings are so important. All of the sessions for the EventWell Summit were kept to a maximum of 30 minutes with 15 minutes of Q&A, and then we had those 15 minutes in between each session, but we had 2 streams. And the purpose of the way that we planned the EventWell event for the past 2 days was to give people freedom and flexibility to attend sessions that they were most interested in. We in the communications that we sent out to everybody, we kind of put those elements in there where we said, please don't try and attend every session. And that's not the purpose of the Digital Summit. The Digital Summit is for you to dip in to watch the sessions as they're happening live that you're most interested in. And then what we have done that Juliet touched on as well is we have recorded every session, and all of those sessions will be made available to everybody who has attended the summit over the past 2 days. And also as well, all members of EventWell will have access to those sessions that you can watch back on replay and download and watch back on replay. So it really is kind of thinking about those different elements of allowing people to absorb content. Don't give them too much content. You don't want to overload the brain. The brain can only roughly absorb about 10 minutes maximum worth of content from any session that you plan. So even from a live perspective, really, sessions shouldn't be an hour long, because it's way too much overload for anybody's brain to be able to absorb in terms of taking away some real quality content from a session. So it's thinking about those different elements. And the same applies when organising a virtual event to a live event. The same principles apply. The only difference I would say between a virtual event and a live event, there's quite a little bit more work in advance, and you heard Juliet talking about that. There's a little bit more work in advance that you need to think about and consider, but also as well in terms of preparing your delegates for their experience. And we try to do that as positively and as best as we could for this event that you've attended the past couple of days. Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to ask? Would anybody like to put, if you want to bang a question or anything in chat, and I'm more than happy to answer those questions at all. If anybody's got any question in terms of organising virtual events and implementing wellbeing and making well-being part of the culture of your event. So you've probably heard lots of sessions over the past 2 days where people have talked about incorporating well-being of the culture of businesses and of the event companies and the venues and hotels and the agencies and their corporate offices and all of those that we work in. But what we wanted to really finish with was a session about incorporating well-being within the culture of the events that we organise as well. And I hope that many of you have picked up on that message that, you know, we all have mental health. Every single one of us has mental health. It's not mental health as well does not necessarily mean mental illness as well. And there's positive mental health, and that there's negative mental health, and there's poor mental health. So it's important that it's looked after. And as we operate in the service industry, because that's what events are. Events are there to serve. It's important that we bear in mind the mental health and well-being of our attendees and our audiences as well. So thank you very much to everyone for attending. If nobody's got any questions, then I will bring this session to a close, and I will bring the EventWell Digital Summit 2020 to a close. We're hoping that the EventWell Summit 2021 will be a live and hybrid event. We're hoping we'll have got the start date by then. But as obviously Chief Executive and founder of EventWell, this event has been my dream to put together. So I can't thank all of you enough really for attending, and for our amazing speakers and thought leaders that have led our sessions over the last 2 days. If we were in a big room together, I'd be making sure that everyone gave them a big round of applause. So I'm going to give them a clap here. But that's it. The EventWell Digital Summit has come to a close. Stay well. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to others. Remember your oxygen mask. Thank you, Laura. Remember your oxygen mask on first. You can't serve from an empty cup. Go and have a wonderful evening, wonderful rest of your week and weekend, and EventWell will see you again soon in our next events coming up. Thank you very much.